Maganda yung nilaro niya. Definitely um, may mga times sa laro namin na parang naramdaman ko na
Billionaire drops everything to save Alex Eala, the handwritten letter that made one of the world's richest men cry and changed Philippine tennis forever. What is going on, tennis fans, and welcome back to Court Vision Plus, the only channel where the drama is always as fierce off the court as it is on it. Before we even get started today, I need you to do something for me. I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now, put down your phone if you are multitasking, and give this video your complete and undivided attention. Because what we are about to unpack today is not just a tennis story. It is not just a feel-good moment or a highlight reel flashback. What we are about to walk through together is the kind of once-in-a-generation, jaw-dropping, goosebump-inducing revelation that makes you remember exactly where you were when you first heard it. This is the story of a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines, a handwritten letter soaked in sacrifice and silent tears, and one of the most powerful men on planet Earth who read those words and felt something that all his billions of dollars could never buy. This is the story of how Alex Eala's 2026 Miami Open journey cracked open a door that nobody even knew existed, and what walked through that door has the entire sports world absolutely shaking. Let us start from the beginning, because context is everything here, and if you want to truly understand the magnitude of what is reportedly just unfolded, you need to understand what Alex Eala has already been through just to get to this moment. Alex Eala was born on May 23, 2005, in the Philippines, a nation famous for many things, but historically not known as a powerhouse in the world of professional tennis. From an early age, it was breathtakingly clear that this young girl was different. She had that rare combination of elite athleticism, fierce competitive intelligence, and an almost supernatural calmness under pressure that you simply cannot teach. You are either born with it or you are not, and Alex Eala was absolutely born with it. By the time she was a teenager, she had already claimed ITF junior titles and was drawing comparisons to future Grand Slam champions. She became the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam junior title when she claimed the 2022 U.S. Open Girls Singles Championship, and the entire nation of over 100 million people erupted in celebration. She was not just a tennis player at that point. She had become a symbol, a beacon of hope, proof that the Philippines could compete and win at the absolute highest levels of global sport. But here is where the story gets complicated, and where the real drama begins to bubble underneath the surface of all those glittering trophies and viral highlight clips. Professional tennis, and I cannot stress this enough, is one of the most financially brutal sports on earth. While the Grand Slams and elite WTA tournaments offer prize money that can make your head spin, the road to those events is paved with enormous, relentless, suffocating expenses. We are talking about flights across multiple continents every single week. We are talking about hotel bookings in some of the most expensive cities in the world. We are talking about a full-time coaching staff, physiotherapists, sports psychologists, nutritionists, and fitness trainers who all need to be paid whether their athlete wins or loses. We are talking about racket stringing, custom equipment, court time, and medical bills that stack up like a towering skyscraper. Industry insiders have long estimated that a developing player on the WTA Tour can spend anywhere between $200,000 to $500,000 per year just to maintain a competitive schedule, and that number climbs even higher the further you advance. For athletes from wealthier tennis nations with robust national programs and corporate sponsor pipelines, this financial mountain is still steep but manageable. For a young girl from the Philippines, where the tennis infrastructure is far thinner and the pathway to international sponsorships far more treacherous, every single year on tour is a financial war fought quietly behind the scenes. And yet, Alex Eala kept showing up. Year after year, tournament after tournament, she kept arriving on those courts with the same ferocious determination, the same booming ground strokes, the same electric energy that made crowds around the world fall completely in love with her. Her 2026 season leading into the Miami Open had already been generating serious buzz. She was climbing the WTA rankings with a momentum that felt genuinely unstoppable, and analysts who track these things for a living were beginning to whisper that we might be witnessing the early chapters of a truly legendary career. The Miami Open became the stage where all of that potential threatened to explode into something truly historic. Match after match, Eala delivered performances that had the tennis world collectively losing its mind. She moved around the court like she was born on it, reading opponents with a maturity that seemed impossible for someone her age, and closing out points with a ruthless efficiency that made even seasoned veterans look stunned. The crowd at Hard Rock Stadium adored her. Social media was absolutely on fire every time she stepped on the court. The Philippines was staying up through the night, glued to streams and score updates, praying, cheering, and crying with every single point. And while all of that beautiful chaos was unfolding in Florida, something else was apparently happening on a different continent entirely. Because while Eala was fighting on the hard courts of Miami, the ripples of her journey were reportedly reaching all the way to Europe, where they landed in the inbox, and then apparently the hands, of a man named Bernard Arnault. Now, if you are not familiar with Bernard Arnault, allow me to paint you a very quick picture, because understanding who this man is makes what reportedly happened next almost impossible to believe. Bernard Arnault is the chairman and chief executive of LVMH Moët Hennessy Louis Vuitton, the world's largest luxury goods conglomerate. This is the empire that owns Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Givenchy, Bulgari, Tiffany and Company, Moët and Chandon, Hennessy, Tag Heuer, and dozens of other brands that collectively define global luxury. At his peak, Bernard Arnault has held the title of the wealthiest person on earth, with a net worth that has floated around the staggering $150 to $200 billion range depending on the day and the market. He is a man who moves through the world with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that very few doors are closed to him. He is not known for impulsive decisions. He is not known for public displays of emotion. He is known for precision, strategy, and an almost cold business brilliance that has turned LVMH into a global empire that lesser mortals can barely even comprehend. So when reports began to circulate that Bernard Arnault had been moved, genuinely and deeply moved, by the story of a 20-year-old tennis player from the Philippines, the collective reaction was something along the lines of absolute disbelief. But then came the detail that sent the entire internet spiraling into a frenzy. Because it was not a slick presentation from a sports management agency that got his attention. It was not a data-driven pitch from a marketing team. It was not even a viral video that landed on his timeline. According to reports that have been setting the tennis world ablaze, the thing that reached Bernard Arnault, the thing that reportedly cracked through the polished armor of one of the world's most formidable businessmen, was a handwritten letter from Alex Eala herself.
You mentioned the fans there. How much during the game, obviously you're so locked in and focused in the game, how much do you notice outside of the games with the fans cheering you on? Do you really take notice?
Let that sink in for just a moment. In an era of emails and text messages and perfectly curated social media campaigns, a young woman sat down with a pen and paper and wrote something so raw, so honest, and so profoundly human that it reportedly brought tears to the eyes of a man worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Now, the full contents of that letter have not been publicly released, and perhaps they never will be, because some things are too personal and too sacred to be shared with the world. But sources who have been described as being close to both parties have been offering fragments of what Eala reportedly poured into those pages, and the picture that emerges is absolutely heartbreaking in the most beautiful way imaginable. It is said that Eala did not write to ask for money. She did not write with the language of a business proposal or a sponsorship negotiation. What she reportedly wrote was something far more powerful and far more vulnerable than that. She wrote about her family. She wrote about her parents, about the extraordinary lengths they had gone to in order to give their daughter a chance at a dream that most people in their position would have considered completely out of reach. She wrote about the sacrifices that had been made in silence, the quiet financial struggles that never made it into any interview or press release, the moments of doubt and fear that she had carried inside her while projecting strength and confidence on the court for the entire world to see. She reportedly wrote about what it feels like to represent a nation of over 100 million people, to carry their hopes and their pride into every single match, while simultaneously worrying about whether the funds would hold out long enough to make it to the next tournament. She wrote about the cost of greatness, not in the inspirational, motivational poster sense of the phrase, but in the very real, very tangible, very human sense of what it actually demands from a young person and everyone who loves them.
Do whatever I could. I can't control how she was playing, and she I think upped her game in the second. So I tried to go for my shots, and they were effective.
And according to those close to the situation, Bernard Arnault read those words and wept. The man who has negotiated billion-dollar acquisitions without blinking, who has watched markets rise and fall with the serenity of someone who knows he will outlast the chaos, reportedly sat with that letter for a long time. And when he was done, he made a decision. He pledged to personally cover the full scope of Alex Eala's professional career expenses. Not a partial sponsorship. Not a limited-time deal with contractual obligations and brand requirements attached. A comprehensive, blanket commitment to ensuring that financial pressure would never again be a variable in the equation of what this young woman could achieve. World-class coaching. Private travel arrangements. Premium medical and physiotherapy care. Access to the finest training facilities on the planet. Everything that the sport demands at the highest level, covered. The blank check that every struggling athlete dreams about, handed over not by a corporation looking for return on investment, but by one human being who was simply, profoundly moved by another. Now naturally, because this is the internet and because nothing can exist in a vacuum, the reaction to these reports has been enormous and wildly divided. On one side, you have the romantics, the believers, the fans who have followed Eala's journey from the very beginning and who feel that this moment is the universe finally delivering the justice and support that she has always deserved. Social media has been flooded with emotional responses from Filipino fans in particular, many of whom have spoken about feeling seen and validated in a way that transcends sport entirely. For a country that has long produced extraordinary athletes who were forced to fight without the institutional and financial support that their counterparts from wealthier nations enjoy almost automatically, the image of a billionaire being moved to generosity by one of their own carries an emotional weight that is genuinely difficult to overstate. Forums and comment sections are filled with people saying that they cried reading about it, that it restored their faith in humanity, that it made them believe that goodness and fairness can still find a way to break through in a world that often feels rigged against the underdog. On the other side, you have the skeptics, the analysts, the people who look at a story this perfectly cinematic and immediately start asking questions. And honestly, those questions are fair and worth exploring, because this is Court Vision Plus and we do not do surface-level coverage here. The most obvious question that the skeptics are raising is this: why would Bernard Arnault, a man whose every major decision has always been filtered through the lens of strategic business value, make such a sweeping and unconditional commitment purely on the basis of emotional response to a letter? Even if we accept that he was genuinely moved, the argument goes, a man of his caliber and experience does not make financial commitments of this magnitude without some layer of strategic thinking underneath the generosity. And here's where things get genuinely interesting, because the skeptics might not be entirely wrong, but they might also be missing the forest for the trees. Consider the broader context of what has been happening in the Arnault family's relationship with the world of elite sport over the past several years. LVMH has been aggressively and strategically expanding its presence in sports sponsorship and athletic branding in a way that has been quietly reshaping how the luxury world intersects with professional competition. The company's sponsorship of the Paris 2024 Olympics was one of the most high-profile luxury-to-sport alignments in recent memory, and it generated the kind of global cultural conversation that money simply cannot buy through traditional advertising. Bernard Arnault's son Alexander has been increasingly visible in sports business circles, and the family has made it very clear through their investments and partnerships that they see elite athletes not just as brand ambassadors but as cultural figures whose stories carry genuine power in the modern global marketplace.
Aujourd'hui, de voir que le rapporteur de votre commission, ici présent, dans son journal, trouvait opportun, en première page,
The international tennis community, for its part, has been watching all of this unfold with a mixture of genuine admiration and barely concealed fascination. Players who have crossed paths with Eala on the tour have spoken publicly about her talent and her character. Coaches and analysts who follow the sport closely have been cautiously enthusiastic in their assessments, careful not to pile too much pressure on a young player still in the process of developing, but clearly unable to hide their excitement about what she might become. And now, with this extraordinary reported development adding an entirely new dimension to her story, the spotlight on Alex Eala is brighter than it has ever been before. There is one more layer to this story that we absolutely have to talk about before we wrap things up, because it connects everything together in a way that feels almost too perfectly poetic to be real. Think about what a handwritten letter represents in 2026. We live in a world of instant messaging, voice notes, video calls, and AI-generated text. The act of sitting down with a physical pen, putting it to physical paper, and writing something by hand is almost an act of radical vulnerability in the modern age. It says something that cannot be said in any other medium. It says, I am not performing here. I am not crafting an image. I am not optimizing for engagement or impressions.
Or has there been a coach along the way that said, this is how you're going to play?
I want to think that being aggressive has always kind of been what I've aimed to do.
This is just me, as honestly as I know how to be, telling you something true. And the fact that Alex Eala chose that medium, in that moment, to reach out, says something profound about who she is as a person beneath all the trophies and rankings and viral moments. And the fact that it worked, that those handwritten words reportedly broke through to a man who is otherwise surrounded by every form of polished communication and professional presentation imaginable, says something equally profound about the irreducible power of authentic human truth. In a sports landscape that is increasingly dominated by personal brands, social media strategies, and carefully managed narratives, there is something breathtakingly refreshing about a story that comes down to two human beings, one word at a time, on a piece of paper. Whatever the full truth of this story turns out to be as more details emerge in the coming weeks and months, and we will absolutely be here covering every single development as it happens, the core of it feels like something worth holding onto. A young woman fought for her dreams with everything she had. She was honest about the cost of that fight. And someone powerful enough to help chose to. Tennis will never be the same after this. The Philippines will never look at its athletes the same way after this. And if you have been following Alex Eala's journey from the very beginning, from the junior courts to the U.S. Open girls title to the blazing hard courts of Miami, then you already knew that this girl was destined for something special. The rest of the world is just catching up. So there you have it, tennis fans. The most stunning off-court development of the entire 2026 season, a story that has everything: triumph, sacrifice, tears, billionaires, handwritten letters, and a 20-year-old Filipina who just might be on the verge of changing her sport forever. We will be following every single update on this story as it develops, and you know that Court Vision Plus will be the first place to bring it to you with the depth, the drama, and the analysis you deserve.
Yung nilaro niya, definitely may mga times sa laro namin na parang naramdaman ko na.
Now it is your turn. I want to hear everything in the comments section right now. Do you believe Bernard Arnault's gesture is pure philanthropy straight from the heart? Or do you think there is a bigger strategic play brewing in the background? Do you think this kind of private billionaire backing is a beautiful thing for sport, or does it expose a system that should be doing better by its own athletes? And most importantly, how high do you think Alex Eala can go now that the financial weight has reportedly been lifted from her shoulders? Drop everything down below because I read every single comment and this community always brings the heat. If you loved this video and you are not subscribed to Court Vision Plus yet, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button right now, smash the like button so hard it echoes, and turn on your notification bells because this story is absolutely nowhere near finished. We are going to be on top of every twist, every update, and every breathtaking development as this season continues to unfold. The courts are hot, the drama is real, and we are just getting started. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the very next one right here on Court Vision Plus. Do not miss it.